Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Bennet, my fellow witness, Senator Lautenberg, members of the committee, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to talk with you about solutions I've proposed to an important problem that impedes our government's ability to respond to the needs of American families. I'm talking about the Senate rules. The Senate's rules are intended to encourage the body to function collegially, protect the rights of individual senators, and foster debate. Yet a few of these rules are actually having the real-world outcome of inhibiting all of those legitimate purposes. The pervasiveness of the filibuster, deployed every day for multiple purposes in this body, has started to cause the Senate to descend into complete dysfunction. I'm not here to advocate banning the filibuster. The Senate can and must protect individual or small groups of senators, and filibusters used properly can extend debate on important matters while members advocate for their constituents and engage in the battle of ideas that is the hallmark, or should be the hallmark, of this body. Yesterday's failed procedural vote on Chairman Schumer's campaign finance legislation is the perfect example, in my view, of the abuse of Senate rules. The filibuster, deployed for years to extend debate in the Senate, sometimes for a whole day at a time, actually is now being used to undermine ever even having debate. By filibustering the ability of the Senate to begin debate on the Disclose Act, yesterday's minority denied the American people a full airing of the recent Supreme Court decision in Citizens United versus FEC and how that decision might affect our democracy. I have introduced Senate Resolution 440 that in a very practical way would have ensured that we could have moved ahead to the debate stage on the Disclose Act. By making motions to proceed undebatable, my resolution eliminates filibusters that, rather than extend debate, actually are abused to prevent debate. My resolution would help the body operate more efficiently. Making motions to proceed non-debatable is a practical step in the right direction that is worth incorporation in a larger Senate Rules Committee package of suggested rules amendments. Another type of filibuster that prevents rather than extends debate is the hold. Holds are the most anti-democratic form of the filibuster because just one senator can, even in a secret manner, block Senate business for long stretches of time. Senate Resolution 440 makes significant improvements to the holds process, including eliminating the secret hold. My approach would require that holds to be published in the congressional record, require them to be bipartisan. At that time, they'd be limited to 30 days. Neither party will be able to place secret holds. It's important that citizens have the ability to find out why things don't get done in Washington. Mr. Chairman, my fellow witness, Senator Lautenberg, has some very interesting ideas about how to ask more of the filibustering senators who seek to block legislation. I'd like to discuss the reform proposal in my resolution on this matter as well. The Senate's rules effectively require an affirmative 60 senators to vote to end debate on an item, yet members in the minority do not even have to show up or vote to continue on with a filibuster. My resolution would actually require at least 41 senators to show up and vote to block cloture, or else the legislation could move forward. If you want to block the majority from moving ahead, then you at least ought to be required to show up for the vote. An atmosphere of overly bipartisan gridlock has rendered this body too often at an impasse. I think the rules are contributing to this hyperpartisanship, only making a difficult environment for working across the aisle that much harder. Mr. Chairman, the American people want to see their elected representatives work together. There is a sense, often a correct sense, that the parties are trying to score political points instead of attending to the people's business. We conduct votes with very, very partisan outcomes, and filibusters serve only to dig members in on one side or the other. My resolution is in part an effort to build in some incentives to help the Senate work through legislative impasses in a more constructive, bipartisan manner. These proposed rule changes address situations where the legislative process has already begun to break down. Following 3 failed attempts at ending a filibuster, new incentives are activated that should encourage the parties to negotiate. First, the 41-vote threshold that the filibustering minority must meet in order to maintain the filibuster under my proposal would increase to 45 senators, unless the minority is able to attract at least one senator who caucuses with the majority to vote for the filibuster. This provides considerable incentives to the minority to keep an open dialogue and work with members of the other party. I believe building in this incentive can have a positive marginal effect on minority negotiations with members of the majority. A second piece of the resolution builds on this first one. Once the minority has convinced a member of the majority party to support a filibuster, then the threshold necessary to block cloture can still rise to 45 if the majority is able to attract 3 members of the minority to support cloture. So the majority leader, able to make substantive changes to the legislation at hand, now has incentives to negotiate with members of the minority in the hope that he can break the filibuster with their help. While rules changes cannot fix Washington culture, they can reduce the incentives for the inertia that too many times since I've gotten here has left the Senate in paralysis. Encouraging bipartisanship through the Senate rules is at best only a partial answer, but I believe that improving some of the rules under which this body functions can begin to replace some of the bad habits Washington has developed with better ones. The single most important thing we can do to improve the chance for success of a reform proposal is to get the partisan intent out of it. We need substantial bipartisan support to update the Senate's rules. So let's put together a package that would improve the rules, whether you're in the majority or in the minority. And let's make it crystal clear that that's our intent. My resolution has been co-sponsored by Senator Shaheen, and it's my sincere hope that some of them will be incorporated in a bipartisan reform package that can pass this body. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, and to all the members of the committee for conducting this important hearing.
Yeah, again, these are very interesting ideas. I know you, Senator Bennet, have been pushing this for a long time before most people have focused on it. And speaking, I think, for all of us, we're going to pay careful attention to the ideas that you've put forward, as well as I mentioned, Senator Lautenberg's. These 2 excellent testimonies that will help guide us. So we thank both of you for being here.